All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for real people just like you and just like me. So you go back to 1977. This is a really cool story how Don Henley ends up getting fired by Donald Fagen from Steely Dan. They wanted some really good background vocals for the song Peg, and we know who's singing on Peg, and we'll get to that at the end. But what's interesting is that they thought Don Henley and Linda Ronstadt would be good choices. And apparently Linda was not up to it. She wasn't feeling well. So they brought in Nicolette Larson, and she's really good. But things didn't go well. In fact, what happened was Fagen would go out to the piano and he would play the track, and then he would teach them their parts and what they had to sing. They tried it once and it wasn't any good. They tried it a second time and it was even more disappointing. And apparently there wasn't a lot of patience in the room. And again, if you know any of the stories about Steely Dan and how they were taskmasters and they were perfectionists, and they would do takes over and over again. Anyway, Gary Katz, the producer, said, we didn't really jerk people around. We let them know what was going to work, and we didn't make them sit for 2 hours. And in this case, we didn't know what was going to happen, but based on Fagen's reaction, it wasn't going well. At that point, apparently Fagen gets up, tells Walter Becker, hey, let's go get a sandwich. And then they left. They left the studio. And Fagen told Katz on his way out, oh yeah, fire them. The instruction left him with a really daunting task to have to fire Don Henley. Katz says, which I did. And apparently he's heard about it for 35 years ever since in various ways. Katz says, the last time I saw Henley, he sidled up to me and he said, are you going to fire me again today, Katz? But he didn't smile when he said that. He agrees it was a difficult day at the office because like Fagen and Becker, I was part of that inner circle crowd. We were all in the same little area. We lived in the same place and we had the same manager, which was Irving Azoff. It was always the Eagles and Steely Dan going head to head in LA for a very long time. Old friend Michael McDonald was brought in to complete Peg, which led Katz to recall the time Steely Dan first heard the Doobie Brother legend sing as a result of a post-show conversation. The band and the crew went to a bar and did what they usually do. Donald, Walter, and I never went and did that. We usually just go back to the hotel, get some food, and play Cosmic Scrabble. That's when you roll a few doobies, ironically, and then you play Scrabble. They were joined later by guitarist Denny Diaz, who told them, you know, I heard this guy that sounds like Ray Charles. Katz notes that Diaz was a reliable source of information, turned out to be Michael McDonald. So Michael ends up recording Bad Sneakers, which the producer recalls as pretty good. Donald said, all right, let's double that. It sounded a little better. And then they tripled it, and then they quadrupled it. So basically you've got two stereo pairs featuring the incredible voice of Michael McDonald. So a very interesting story. Don Henley gets fired from Steely Dan. You know, Steely Dan, perfectionists. And if you listen to their albums, all of them pretty much, especially their, you know, albums from the 70s into like the early 80s, I think their last studio album, and then they pick up later, like toward the end of the 90s, and they do an album. But in those days, like the vintage Steely Dan material, it's just so well produced. It's so organic. You've got great players all over the place. You read the album cover, it's like a who's who of California rock music at the time. That's why it's so cool to have an album and not like a cassette or just the CDs are okay, but the album just spoke to you in addition to the music that you would listen to. And Steely Dan, they were just the best at this. Nobody was better in the studio than Steely Dan. I think Jay Graydon too lays down an incredible guitar solo on that track, in addition to having Michael McDonald there. But Don Henley apparently was not up to snuff for Walter and Donald. So there you go. The time that Don Henley got fired from Steely Dan.